The first model of oligopoly is the cartel, an agreement between firms or countries in an industry to formally collude or conspire on price and output and then agree to the distribution of production. And the cartel is going to be very, very powerful because they can help to reduce overall supply to increase prices and profit for every single firm that is going to go ahead and abide by the cartel agreement. And the best example of a cartel that we have nowadays is going to be OPEC, the Organization for the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Basically, these are the 12 or 13 countries that have a lot of oil production and they export it to countries internationally. So the United States and the European Union actually, they sort of have laws that don't allow cartels to take place, but international laws actually don't outlaw cartels, which is why OPEC is allowed to sort of operate. And within the cartel itself, we're going to see that it's going to be inherently unstable because every single firm within the cartel agreement actually does have an incentive to cheat. And just a few months ago, we did see a very, very big story with OPEC and Russia. So OPEC actually wanted Russia to go ahead and decrease the supply of oil production that they had for countries around the world, but Russia actually did not want to agree to what OPEC wanted. OPEC wasn't very happy about that, so what did all these countries decide to do? They decided to go ahead and flood the market with oil, and that essentially caused the price of oil to fall very, very fast, very, very quickly, and that's exactly why we saw the price of gasoline about $1.50 to $1.75 during this time period. And with the price of oil so low, this had the innate sort of impact of hurting Russia quite a lot because one of Russia's main exports is actually oil. So therefore, OPEC exercised a lot of power. It shows you exactly how much power OPEC and cartels actually can exercise and the impacts it can bring about on an international stage. And that just essentially shows you the power of all the cartel members. By them going ahead and acting this type of decision together, that is just trying to get Russia to fall back in line with what the cartel wants. So cartel is very, very powerful as long as they can go ahead and come to some type of agreement and they follow through with these decisions all along with one another. However, as we're going to note right here, there are very big incentives for these countries or for these firms to sort of deviate from the plan or sort of cheat, and we're going to see exactly why. So this is essentially going to be the illustration that we bring up right here, and don't really worry too much about the illustration. However, we are going to be using the numbers that we see right here in order to build this up. So let's go ahead and take a look at this cartel graph. So here, built up this cartel graph. So first of all, we want to go ahead and say that there are going to be 5 firms within this cartel, and they all agree to say that, hey, we're going to agree to some type of agreement with one another. We're going to collude with one another for this particular product, and we're going to sort of say, hey, this is the amount of the product that we want to put forth into the marketplace, and this is the price that we're going to be charging. So there's 5 firms that form a cartel. I'm just setting up this problem. 5 firms form a cartel, and fix overall output to that of a monopoly. And fix overall output to that of a monopoly. So any firm would like to be a monopoly. Remember, that's where there's the most market power, the most potential for profits. However, these 5 firms are going to form this cartel, and they're going to fix the overall output to that of a monopoly. So that's exactly where we have quantity equals to 100 and price equals to 10. And these are the numbers that we're going to see on that illustration. And the cartel agreement says that every single firm is going to share in the revenues and profits with one another, as well as the production decisions too. So each firm, they produce how many units? Each firm produces 100 divided by 5, so 20 units. So each of these 5 firms right here, they're going to produce 20 units, and that's exactly where we get the market quantity of 100 units right here. The total revenue of all firms, so all 5 of these firms put together, remember that's just going to be price times quantity. The price is $10. The quantity is 100. So therefore, we have $1,000 worth of total revenue. The total revenue of every single individual firm, because they're sharing equally, it's just going to divide this by 5 right here. So here, $200 for every single firm. So total revenue of each firm is going to be, we can just say the $10 times 20 right here. So each firm is going to earn $200. So 3 components so far of this cartel agreement right here. So every single firm is going to abide by this cartel agreement. And every single firm is going to be very, very happy because they've successfully charged monopoly prices, and that's exactly where we see this cartel agreement coming into fruition. However, under this cartel agreement, every single firm does have an incentive to cheat. So here, each firm, we'll build this up, does have an incentive to cheat. Does have an incentive to cheat. And this is just not for one firm, but all 5 of these firms right here. So let's go ahead and see what happens to everyone's total revenue when one firm actually does decide to cheat on the cartel agreement. So suppose one firm does cheat. Suppose one firm does cheat. And how does this firm cheat? This firm is going to go ahead and cheat and say, hey, I don't really care about your production agreement or this cartel agreement anymore. I'm going to go ahead and increase the production of this particular good. So one firm does cheat and produces 20 additional units of output. So here, and produces 20 additional units. 20 additional units of output. And when this one firm decides to cheat, he's actually increasing the total amount of quantity in the marketplace. But as the quantity goes up, we are going to see that the market price has to go down. Remember, there is market power, so the demand curve is going to be downward sloping. And when this occurs, we notice that total output Q, is equal to 120 units. So before, they agreed to have 100 units, but this one firm is now producing 20 additional units, so that's where 120 comes in. And that causes the market price, price right here. So take a look at the market price, P, which is now equal to $8. So in effect, by producing more units of output, that's actually caused the market price to go down. And this is going to cause some implications for the cartel agreement and the total revenue that every single firm is going to be earning. So what happens here? So 4 firms, when one firm is going to sort of cheat on the agreement, that tells us that 4 firms are still abiding by the cartel agreement. So 4 firms still are producing 20 units each, produce 20 units each, and that one cheating firm is producing 20 additional units, so 40 units altogether. And cheating firm produces 40 units. So let's go ahead and use these numbers to see exactly how the total revenue overall and the total revenue for each firm is going to change. So now the cheating is going to go ahead and occur. So cheating occurs. And when the cheating occurs, that's exactly where the cartel agreement is going to sort of break down. Now we notice that the total revenue of all firms, what is that equal to now? So remember, price times quantity, we have $8 for every single unit that is being sold, but the total output is 120. So 120 times 8, that'll give us $960 of total revenue. Before we had $1,000 worth of total revenue, now we only have $960. So total revenue for all firms altogether has dropped by $40. However, the makeup of every single firm for their total revenue is going to change as well. The total revenue of each non-cheating firm, what does that now equal? Remember that now that every non-cheating firm, they're still charging $8 for the price because that is the market price, and they're now remember, they're still abiding by the cartel agreement, so they have quantity of 20 units. So price times quantity, that tells us that every single firm that is not cheating is earning $160 worth of total revenue. So every single firm that is non-cheating in this instance is now losing $40. Before they were earning $200, now they're only earning $160. So each firm loses $40 in total revenue. $40 in total revenue. However, that one firm that does decide to cheat, he is the one that is going to be gaining from this cheating essentially. So the total revenue of cheating firm. What is the total revenue of this one singular firm now? Remember, still market price of $8, but he's producing 20 additional units. So 40 is the quantity here. 8 times 40. This will give us $320 worth of total revenue for this cheating firm. So what does this tell us about the cheating firm? He's gaining $120 from cheating on the cartel agreement. So this firm gains $120 from cheating on cartel agreement. So this is essentially the marginal revenue of this firm deciding to cheat on the agreement. That's $120. So $320 now from cheating, $200 before from not cheating. So this is the marginal revenue or the marginal incentive for the firm to go ahead and cheat on the agreement. And this is not just going to be the sort of incentive for this one singular firm. This incentive is going to hold for the 4 other firms as well. So this is essentially going to show us exactly why cartels are inherently unstable, because every single firm does have an incentive to cheat because they want to get this additional revenue. They want to get this marginal revenue right here from cheating on the cartel agreement. And that's exactly what we see right here. So all these numbers that we see, this is essentially the cartel graph, just putting specific numbers to it. And we see that, hey, every single firm does have an incentive to cheat on the agreement itself. So how exactly can we make cartels a little bit more stable? So how can OPEC become a little bit more stable on the international sort of standpoint? Cartels are going to be more stable when they have few members and each of these members have similar goals. The fewer the number of members, the easier it's going to be for every single person or every single firm or country to check up on everybody else. If the cartel had maybe say maybe 20, 30, 40 members, every single member is going to have to check up on every other one as well. And it's going to be more difficult to do the more firms, countries, or people are in it. So fewer members, the cartel is more stable. If they are going to be maintained with legal provisions, the cartel is more stable. So remember, international law does not outlaw cartels, which is why OPEC is allowed to operate. And this is going to be very difficult in the United States and also the European Union for any cartel to form, because the governments have actually outlawed cartels from forming in these regions. Number 3, they are unable to differentiate their products. So if the product that each of these cartel members is going to be selling very, very similar to one another, the cartel is more stable. What would happen if one member of the cartel said that, hey, my oil or my product is going to be a little bit more differentiated? So my oil, if we take OPEC for this sort of example right here, one member of OPEC says that, hey, my oil has better preservatives into it, and that gives you higher quality oil. That just tells us that, hey, they're going to want to try to charge a higher price for their differentiated oil, so therefore the cartel would be seen as a little bit more unstable there. So the more similar the products, the more stable the cartel becomes. Next, each firm has a similar cost structure. So once again, if the firms or countries have very similar cost structures, that just maintains the cartel with more stability. If a firm or country has lower costs, what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to underprice everybody, and that is going to lead to more instability within the cartel agreement. So once again, we need very similar costs, very similar products. And then finally, we see there are going to be significant barriers to entry. The cartel members, they want to prevent members from new firms, new corporations from entering into the cartel agreement. So therefore, if there are very significant barriers to entry, very big obstacles that prevent firms from entering into the industry, the cartel is seen as more stable. The more and more firms that enter into the industry, as we saw here with the first point, the more unstable the cartel actually does become. So as we can see with this cartel, we do see that cartels are inherently unstable and that what one firm does is going to affect every single firm. We had one rogue firm in the example that we built up right here, and that affected every other firm within the marketplace, within this industry right here. So this gets into the point of mutual interdependence a little bit more under oligopoly, and we see that, hey, cartels are unstable, and we want to maintain this cartel agreement because that's exactly where the firms are going to be generating this type of monopoly power. However, we do see that every single firm does have an incentive to cheat, and that's where the mutual interdependence comes into play a little bit more. With all of this in mind, we'll take a look at the second model of oligopoly, which hits on mutual interdependence once again with the kink demand curve in the next video.